have the pleasure of inviting a great panel here up on stage. It's going to be moderated by Nikita from the Mills Fabrica. It's Kipka from Apparel Impact Institute, Julia Weiner from Closed Loop Partners, and Neeta Singh from the Unreasonable group. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming today. I'm just going to let everyone introduce themselves here so you get a good idea of who we have on the panel here.
Thank you. Excuse me while I make some microphone adjustments. I'm Kipka. I'm the Chief Impact Officer at Apparel Impact Institute.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia Weiner. I'm an investment associate at an impact investment firm based here in New York called Closed Loop Partners, where we invest to accelerate the circular economy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. My name is Neeta Singh. I'm the Chief Operating and Financial Officer of the Unreasonable group, which is creates an ecosystem for founders focused on sustainability.
Thank you. So, Kurt, from your perspective, what do you see that impact investors are really looking for in sustainable startups today?
Sure. First of all, I should clarify, Apparel Impact Institute is an organization that brings together blended capital solutions in order to unlock or catalyze increased investment in the apparel sector, focusing on a path to decarbonization, specifically focusing on the apparel supply chain, and the work that we do spans the globe. We have projects and programs in hundreds of production facilities and regions throughout the world. And in terms of the investors or the organizations that we're working with, we're really looking for quantified actions or quantifiable solutions to some of the biggest challenges that this industry has. That is having the metrics to support that an investment is going to return an investment in terms of carbon reductions. So my role enables me a little bit of flexibility to focus on those solutions that are going to have the biggest environmental impact, while also looking at the financial components as a bonus.
Thanks. And over to you, Julia.
Yeah, so at Closed Loop, many of our funds are market rate funds. And so, as Carla was mentioning earlier, it's important to showcase the importance of scaling sustainable innovation, but also driving market rate returns. And so something that we're really focusing on at Closed Loop is how can you unlock sustainable innovation while also driving profitability, resiliency, and opportunities to re-engage your consumer. And so a big focus for us is really in making those market rate returns while unlocking a new economy based on circularity.
At Unreasonable Group, we also focus very much on for-profit companies, knowing that we can do well while doing good. And a lot of the investors that we are bringing into the loop, into that ecosystem, are exactly what you're talking about. So there's the whole aspect of bringing technology that's easily integrated into the current system that we have in order to accelerate change and impact.
Oh, thanks. And so, Neeta, in what areas of the value chain do you see the most potential for impact, like the real sort of needle movers?
I think at this moment in time, we're seeing a lot of new technologies in fabrics and things like that, but they tend to be a little bit more early stage. The companies that are focused on the supply chain from soup to nuts actually are able to really move the needle at this moment in time. There's a lot of gaps that we're seeing and different technologies that can fit into those gaps and make a change right now. That and the circular economy.
Julia?
Yeah, so in terms of the fashion supply chain, we really see opportunity to unlock value at every stage of the value and supply chain. And so it is hard to pick just one specific area that gets me excited, but I think if I did have to pick just one, I think that right now there's a really exciting opportunity at end of life and how we take back materials, how we redistribute those materials, whether it's to new business models such as resale and rental, or if those products can no longer be reused, finding the right end of life through sortation mechanisms and end-of-life recycling, whether mechanical or molecular. So really excited about the opportunity that's being unlocked at end of life, as well as so much opportunity further upstream in the supply chain.
And for us, we take a bit more of a site-level approach to the interventions that we incorporate into the supply chain. So for me, it's all about wet processing, particularly where boilers are on site and thermal energy is needed to produce goods. So I live in a world where boilers and boiler efficiency are kind of the name of the game for me, particularly where coal is being used in those boilers, how we can either phase that out or operate in the most optimal way.
Cool. So then also, like, I guess, looking at the economic climate that we're coming into right now as well, how, apart from funding, do you have support structures that you are giving to your startups? Neeta?
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I can jump in and feel free to add additional context. At Closed Loop Partners, I think it first starts with educating our portfolio on where the state of the economy is today, where it's going, and really informing them and preparing them for, their balance sheet and their P&L, and making sure that they're thinking strategically about how much capital they need to have on hand to get them, through the next 12 to 18 months, because the fundraising environment is becoming more challenging. And so preparing them and helping them with their budgets, pulling back a little bit on marketing spend and operational spend if possible, to ensure that they have a long enough runway to get them, through what is expected to be a pretty challenging period of time, and helping them navigate through that time. And also supporting them if they need to raise additional capital, making connections to investors within our network, other individuals in our network who are interested in supporting those businesses through this transition.
Yeah.
And for us, I would say it's more of a focus on a landing spot for those solutions that can bring about additional funding. It's identifying 30 facilities where a solution can be applied and use that as a means of gaining more traction. The same goes for brand adoption or brand engagement. We bring a network of both brands and also hundreds of facilities that we worked with on a global basis that ideally we have everyone as interested in these subjects as all of us in this room are. And with that in place, provides a nice landing spot for many of the interventions or many of the solutions that are incredibly needed in this industry.
Cool. And Neeta?
Our entire organization exists solely to support entrepreneurs across every need that they have, whether it's being lonely at the top and not knowing how to manage growing a business and growing a family, all the way to making introductions to customers and municipalities and wherever the most impact can be. But we run the gamut in terms of that kind of support from start to exit, if you will.
Okay, great. So again, so could one of you guys, talk me through and walk you through how do you go around measuring impact for startups? So we all say we're investing in sustainable startups, but how do you gauge that impact? And are there any tools that you use today that other people can use and startups themselves can use as well?
We gauge impact across each and every fellow that comes into our program, focused on decarbonization, real KPIs around that, but also the social aspect. How many lives are being impacted? How much cost is being saved? Where are these lives being impacted, whether it's creating new jobs or whatever it may be. But there's a lot of different ways at the granular level to be measuring all of these different areas of focus and impact, and ways they can decrease decarbonization for their customers as well. And knowing what they're capable of doing and what their impact can be is also really important, again, to the investors that we're bringing on board.
I think to add to that point, many of the entrepreneurs that we work with across our platform can be very early stage. They can be pre-seed and seed and may not necessarily know how to measure their own impact. And so it's very important for us as impact investors to provide them with that support to help them understand kind of early on in our diligence how to think about measuring impact, whether it's, to your point, decarbonization or GHG emission reduction, at Closed Loop Partners, materials kept in circulation or reduced from landfill is also a core KPI that we consider. We also take into account the social element as well. And so in the early stages, sometimes it's not something that's always super obvious to an entrepreneur and how they can quantify and measure those things. And so we begin that process early on in our due diligence to start thinking of a framework for how we can work with these companies using financial KPIs to then deliver output for impact KPIs.
Thanks. And Kurt, have you got anything else to add to that? Okay. And so, like today, with eco-innovations out there, which do you see are having the biggest disruption in the industry? Kurt, big disruptors?
Yeah, coming back to the response I had earlier, looking at thermal energy, the potential for renewable thermal solutions or clean energy thermal solutions are particularly of interest to me on an industrial scale. I'm also really keen to observe the role that automation is going to increasingly have in this industry and what role that can play on some of the factors that we have at our hands.
Okay.
It's a big question. It's, again, hard to pinpoint one specific area that's so ripe for disruption, as there's many. But I think one area that I'm especially excited about right now is the entire category of material science, whether that's fiber, biopolymers, to dyes, finishes, and membranes. I think there's a lot of exciting movement happening in this space, and I think it's something that many brands and manufacturers and suppliers are prioritizing today in their own supply chains. And when you think about the regulatory environment, there's a huge opportunity. Just last week, California passed a law banning by 2025 the use of PFAs, or forever chemicals, in textiles. And that's a huge, huge tailwind for any entrepreneur or business that's accelerating alternatives for waterproofing and water resistance. And so that's super granular, super specific example, but a huge opportunity that's being unlocked for material science in the textile space.
I also like to focus on business model innovation. Businesses that know how to get into the incumbent industry. There's an amazing business that sells to large retailers who then force their suppliers to be part of that ecosystem in order to get shelf space. And they're informing them, the retailers, exactly how to recycle these materials, whether they're chemicals, plastics, whatever it may be. And so, using that forcing mechanism to really change industry, I think is really interesting. And also, as I was talking about before, the gaps in technology, we may be very focused on electric vehicles in the future, but right now we've got millions of diesel burning engines across the entire globe, and we don't have the infrastructure to be supporting electric vehicles in long haul and whatnot. And there's businesses that are creating the technologies to convert those engines at a very low cost. So.
Okay. Well, I think that's all. That 15 minutes went quick. And thanks a lot for all your time, and thanks for your answers. And look forward to catching up with everyone in the room. Has anyone got any questions?
I don't know if there we go. If you have questions, these guys will hang out with us the rest of the afternoon, so then feel free to grab them, and I think you should, because there is a lot to learn, both in terms of the exciting train of investment opportunities that are leaving the station and you want to be on it, and if you're a brand looking for new solutions, make sure to look into the different portfolios of the companies that we have up here. So I think we'll say thank you so much, all of you, for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.